Welcome transfer students. Thank you for joining us. In this workshop, we will review all the things you need to know about the UC Transfer Admissions Guarantee, also called TAG. In this workshop, we will specifically review the minimum UC admission requirements. Just for you to know, this is a separate application aside from the TAG. We will review the tips on how to be competitive. Just to note, each school does have a different GPA requirement, which we will later talk about in this presentation. We will then review the UC TAG general requirements, each by campus, and we'll also be talking about the transfer admission planner. Please note that the examples that will be used will be for those who are planning to transfer next fall of 2022. That means that those students would be applying to the university and to the TAG program this fall in 2021. It's important for you students to be aware of the updated TAG requirements, which are usually posted around June to mid-July of this year. Let's get started. As you can see here, there are 10 UC campuses, but only 9 out of those 10 are considered UC transfer campuses. The 10th school that is not a transfer campus is UC San Francisco. They have a School of Medicine, a School of Pharmacy, some doctoral programs that are associated with the health and sciences. However, it's just not a UC transfer campus. The 9 UC transfer campuses includes the following: UC Berkeley, UC Davis, UC Irvine, UC Los Angeles, UC Merced, UC Riverside, UC San Diego, UC Santa Barbara, and UC Santa Cruz. Remember that you're more than welcome to apply to these 9 UC transfer campuses when completing your transfer application. Just to note, this is a separate application aside from the TAG application. For the TAG application, only 6 out of these 9 campuses are available for you to choose from. And out of those 6 campuses, you only apply to one of those schools to use your TAG application. Remember, we will talk more in depth about the UC TAG requirements later in this presentation. Before we jump straight to the TAG requirements, we will review the minimum UC admission requirements. In order for any student to transfer to UC campus, they at least need 60 UC transferable units completed by spring. This would be prior to the fall transfer semester. For example, if you're planning to transfer in fall 2022, these 60 UC transferable units need to be completed by spring of 2022, not summer. There's a 2.4 minimum GPA, but remember, each school does have a different GPA requirement. This is just the minimum. If a school or a major is impacted, which means that there's more applicants than there is spaces, the GPA will definitely be higher, especially for TAG. Out of these 60 UC transferable units, you need to complete the UC 7-course pattern, which again comes from the LBCC's Plan C, also called IGETC. This includes 2 transferable English composition courses. When you look at your IGETC plan, this is from areas A1 and AB. You need 1 transferable math course, which again comes from your Plan C from Area 2, and 4 transferable courses from at least 2 of the following subject areas. This includes Arts and Humanities, Area 3, Social and Behavior Sciences, Area 4, and Physical and Biological Sciences, Area 5. Remember, these 7 classes are from Plan C, which are included in your 60 UC transferable units. Here are 3 classes from the 7-course pattern. This plan is Plan C, also called IGETC. Area 1A and Area 1B are both your English classes. This includes your English composition and your critical thinking and composition course. Area 2 is your mathematical concepts and quantitative reasoning. As you can see here, Area 1C is not highlighted. The reason is that this section is specifically required by CSUs only, not UCs. For those students who are also planning to apply to a CSU and you're following Plan C, you want to make sure that this area is fulfilled. Here are the 4 general ed courses that you must take in order to fulfill the 7-course pattern: Arts and Humanities, Social and Behavior Sciences, and Physical and Biological Sciences. All of these areas are from your LBCC General Ed Plan called IGETC. One thing to note is that you cannot take the remaining 4 general ed courses in only one of the general ed areas. For example, you can take 3 classes from either section and take the remaining course from a different section. Or you can split it 2 and 2, depending on what you want and what classes interest you the most. It's important to note that IGETC is not an admission requirement for the UCs, only for 2 schools, and this includes UC Berkeley, specifically for the College of Letters and Sciences, and for UC Riverside for College of Business. As you're completing your UC applications and your TAG application, you want to make sure that you're exceeding the UC minimum eligibility. You want to make sure that you're seeing a counselor every semester, not just your first or last semester. That way, your questions or concerns can get addressed as you're applying to these campuses and to the TAG application. You want to make sure that you're maintaining a high GPA because, again, every campus and major does vary with the minimum GPA requirement. The UC TAG started at 2.7 GPA. For those students who have deficient grades, you might want to consider petitioning for academic renewal. That way, those grades that you have are not counted towards your GPA. It's important for every student to take their major courses at LBCC along with their transferable math and English first, as this is really evident for the TAG requirements. On the next slide, we will be talking about UC transfer pathways for major courses and about assist.org. Now you're wondering, where do I find my major courses? One of the places that you should definitely look into is UC transfer pathways. UC transfer pathways are roadmaps that prepare students to transfer into one of the 21 most popular majors offered at the UCs. This gives you a list of courses for your major that you should target before you transfer, and that's regardless of what school you're trying to go through. UC Pathways' purpose is to help students prepare early and broadly to UC campuses. It helps students satisfy UC campus admission requirements across the entire system for a specific major, and it provides a set of course expectations that prepare transfers for timely graduation. It's important to note that UC Pathways does not guarantee admissions to a UC. On this slide, you can see on the right-hand side a list of the majors that can give you a roadmap as you plan to transfer to a UC. Here is a list of the 21 UC Pathway majors. As you can see here, not all majors have full transfer pathways. Some only offer partial pathways, and in that case, you want to refer to assist.org. Assist.org is a student transfer information system that displays reports of how course credits at your community college, in this case Long Beach City College, can be applied when you transfer to a UC or CSU campus. You want to make sure that you're utilizing this tool in order for you to get more information on the courses that you need to take at LBCC for that specific major. Now let's talk about the UC Transfer Admission Guarantee that you've been waiting for. The UC Transfer Admission Guarantee allows you to submit and receive conditional admission acceptance to one of the 6 participating UC campuses. These include UC Davis, UC Merced, UC Irvine, UC Santa Barbara, UC Santa Cruz, and UC Riverside. It's important to note that UC Davis and UC Merced will typically notify students about the TAG decisions in mid-November. They recommend that you wait to submit the UC application until after your TAG decision. For the remaining schools, they will typically notify students of the TAG decisions in spring. You should submit the UC application anytime in November. As you can see here, UCLA, UC Berkeley, and UC San Diego are not part of the TAG program. You can still apply, you just won't get a guarantee.
So let's talk about those non-California Community College classes or coursework. I know I touched upon it a little bit earlier, but as I mentioned, there are certain campuses that have certain tag requirements, and they may not, that may make it so that you're not eligible for tag if you have upper division credit from four-year college or university. Although there may be some courses here and there that may still count towards tag. So make sure that you're really looking into and ask about some of the classes that you may have if they are non-California Community College coursework to see whether they will still count towards the tag or if they're going to make you not eligible for tag at a certain campus. Because you want to make sure that you are good to go before you apply, since you can only apply for tag to one campus. Also, tag is not available for those students who are currently senior standing if you have a bachelor's, graduate, or professional degree, which I know I mentioned earlier. But do keep in mind that for some of you that are asking, oh, I'm not sure, I may have taken too many courses and I may be senior standing, I'm not sure. California Community College students that only have California Community College units will never reach senior standing. So if you are a student that has only taken courses within a community college, a California community college, then you are eligible and you cannot reach that senior standing. But if you are a student that may have taken some courses at a four-year university, then I would definitely ask whether you are eligible or not and try to figure that out before you apply. Also, if you have units from a four-year university, make sure you're talking to your counselor or the UC representative that you're interested in pursuing tag for. So let's get started with some of the tag basics. As we mentioned in the previous slide, there are 6 campuses that offer this tag application that you can apply to. However, even if you do qualify for all 6 campuses, you can only submit to one of these schools, so make sure that you choose wisely. When it comes to the deadline for the tag application, the UC tag application, it is always the same year. So whether you are applying to transfer for fall 2022 or for fall 2023, the application for UC tag will always be available or you can submit it between September 1st to the 30th. So keep that in mind. For those of you that are interested in applying for winter and getting admitted for winter transfer, UC Merced and UC Riverside may accept winter and spring tags. So those are the only 2 schools that may accept those winter tags. All 4 other schools that have the tag application are only accept spring tags. Another thing to keep in mind, and sometimes students get a little confused on this, is that even if you submit the tag application, you still have to make sure to submit the UC admission application. Both of these are important for you to submit. So sometimes we may have students that get a little confused and maybe submit the UC tag application for, let's say, UC Davis, which is one of those schools that notifies you early on, which is around mid-November, that they did get admitted. So a student is like, great, I applied through UC tag, UC Davis admitted me, I'm good to go. And they forget to submit the UC admission application. So that deadline comes and goes, and now students have not been accepted anymore and they can not attend any UC because they didn't submit that UC admission application. So keep that in mind. Submit the UC tag application in September and then the UC admission application in November. The UC admissions application, although it opens early on, you can submit it anywhere from November 1st to November 30th. So make sure you have that in your calendar. Also, yes, I did mention that you have to submit 2 applications if you are interested in tag, one for UC tag and one for UC admission application, but that does not mean that you have to pay for both of these. The UC tag application is actually free. The UC admissions application, on the other hand, does have a cost of $70, but if you qualify for a fee waiver, you don't have to pay for that. So again, UC TAG application is free. Also, another thing to keep in mind when applying to UC TAG or using UC TAG to apply is that you have to make sure that you're using the same major on your TAG application as your UC application. Otherwise, TAG will not help you. So for example, if you are a computer science major and you put computer science under your TAG application, you have to make sure that in your UC application, you also put down computer science as your major. If for some reason you put computer science on your TAG application, but then on your UC application, you put something like sociology, your TAG is not going to be able to help you anymore because you have not applied to both of these and your majors do not match. You have not applied to both of these with the same majors, your majors do not match. So keep that in mind. And lastly, this is so important and sometimes our students forget. Make sure that you are fulfilling and continuing your coursework and your GPA requirements. Yes, it can be easy for senioritis to catch us or for just, us understanding that we're almost there so we can take a little break. But sometimes we have had students where they kind of take it easy for the last semester and now they fell under the TAG GPA requirement and can no longer use that tag. So please make sure that you are continuing your coursework, continuing to keep your grades up and keeping that consistency up until you transfer. Let's talk about some more basic tag info. You have to make sure to complete at least 30 UC transferable units at a California community college in order to qualify for tag. We do have some of our students who may have taken courses at maybe schools outside of the California community colleges or sometimes even at other four-year institutions before they went to take some classes at the California community college level. So it is important to make sure that within your units you have at least 30 coming from a California community college. Another thing that is also important is that by the end of your summer for fall tag, you have to have these 30 UC transferable units completed. So for example, you complete the 30 units by the end of your summer 2021 for transfer for fall 2022. So anyone that is interested in transferring for fall 2022, your 30 UC transferable units must be completed by this summer 2021. Also, the last term before you transfer, you have to make sure that you are enrolled in one or more California community college. So if you're planning on transferring for fall, you have to be enrolled in that if you're transferring for fall, you have to make sure that you're enrolled in a California community college for that spring term. You have to make sure that your last term before transferring, you're at a community college. Sometimes we have students that maybe finish a little bit early and say, you know what, I think I'm going to take some classes, maybe go out of state, take some classes, take some units. Well, now, because the last semester before transferring, the students did not complete courses at a California community college, they can no longer qualify for TAG. So again, this piece is really important. And as we have mentioned, for transferring in general, you do have to complete 60 transferable units by the end of spring prior to fall transfer. So aside from having those 30 transferable units by the end of this spring 2021, by the end of spring 2022, if you're transferring for fall, you have to make sure that you have your 60 transferable units completed. So the spring 2022 semester is the last semester that you can complete classes to meet those 60 units. Also, you have to have a competitive UC GPA, and for UCs, it's anything from 3.0 above. And again, this is something that you have to make sure that you're keeping with throughout right until you transfer. For UC Riverside, It does start a little bit lower. It starts at 2.7, but again, you have to make sure you keep it there. And then lastly, when it comes to completing your major courses, there are some courses that are major specific, that have major specific GPAs for some tag majors. So make sure you keep that in mind. When you're transferring, look up what the major specific GPA is for your major to make sure that you're meeting it, because it could be well above the 3.0, and just by you having a 3.0 because of your major, you may not be able to qualify. So make sure you have all of that down. And we're actually going to cover some of those GPAs for those schools that may have higher GPAs throughout this presentation. So some of you may have taken all that information in and maybe be a little bit worried about, okay, what should I be doing now? What's next? Well, let's go through the sample transfer timeline so you can get an idea of what are some of the steps that you can take and when. So for summer 2021, so this summer coming up, remember, it's not on here, but make sure that if you are interested in applying for transfer admissions guarantee for TAG, you should have those 30 units already completed by the summer. For those of you that are, and this is for students that are interested in applying for TAG for fall 2022. Okay, now those of you that are interested in applying for spring transfer or winter transfer, make sure that you have those 30 units completed by this spring, okay? Also, in terms of the regular deadline, if you are interested in transferring through Cal State Transfer for spring, the application, you can apply in August. And then if you're interested in applying for fall 2022, the UC transfer application does open up in August, but you cannot submit it until November. So you can open it up and start working on it, but you cannot submit it yet. Now for fall, what should you be doing in the fall? Fall 2021. Well, this is when you're going to start applying. And for those of you that are going to apply for with UC Transfer Admissions Guarantee, that will be in September, and that's for fall 2022 transfer. Those of you that are, and then that's for transfer admissions guarantee. And remember that you still have to submit your UC application. That application, as I mentioned earlier, the deadline is November 30th, but you can submit it anywhere between November 1st and November 30th. And that's also for Cal States. The deadline is November 30th. I know that this past year, the deadlines were extended, but do not count on that for fall. They may not. We don't know what will happen in the fall. So just keep that November 30th deadline in your mind, but really try to get it done before. Now, during spring 2022, what should you be doing? You'll be updating your submitted Cal State and UC applications. That'll usually happen early January, and the deadline for that is usually the end of January to be able to update. And this is just to make sure that you're updating any grades that you took any grades from courses that you took in the fall. Also, enter any coursework that you're taking in winter and update any coursework that you are taking in spring if anything changed. Also, and this is super important, you should be applying for your LBCC degree in the first few weeks of the semester, especially if you are getting an ADT, because actually the deadline for those students that are receiving an ADT is early on in the spring semester, and this is something that you need to have in order to transfer. So keep those deadlines in mind. And again, as we mentioned earlier, finish your semester strong. We cannot reiterate that enough. Make sure that you're finishing strong, you're getting everything that you need to get done right before you transfer. Keep those grades up, keep that GPA up. And then you should receive some admissions, and now you can accept your admissions offer and SIR. It's just a fancy word to state that SIR, just fancy to say, where are you going? Where did you say you were going to go? So it's called a statement of intent to register, and you'll get to say where it is that you want to go. And then you'll graduate from LBCC. Congratulations. In the summer 2022, you'll make sure that you mail your final transcripts to university, so your official transcripts. You'll request your GE or IGETI certification, and then you will attend the university orientations. And then in fall 2022, you're at the university. Yay you! We miss you, but aren't you glad you're not here? Now let's jump into the schools and some of the requirements for each of the schools. Let's start with UC Davis. UC Davis only accepts fall tags. The GPA requirement is between a 3.2 or a 3.5. So remember, we did say that the minimum is 3.0, but it's 3.0 plus 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 because it's usually higher than that. So keep your GPA between 3.2 or 3.5 by the end of summer 2021. You have to have this GPA and you have to keep it up until it's time for you to transfer fall 2022. Your English, you have to make sure that it's completed within the first and second, you have to make sure that you complete your first and second English by the end of fall 2021, so this coming fall, and your math also needs to be completed by this coming fall. So all of that needs to get completed within this spring, winter, and fall 2021. The majors, although UC Davis does accept tags, it's not for all majors. So majors that do not accept tag are the undeclared majors. So if you're going in undeclared, they will not accept you, or landscape architecture. So now UC Irvine. UC Irvine only accepts fall tags. The GPA for UC Irvine is a 3.4, and again, you have to have this by the end of summer 2021, and you have to make sure to keep this GPA after summer 2021. When it comes to your English, they have a little bit more of a leeway, so they let you complete your first English by the end of summer 2021 and then your second English by the end of spring 2022. So they give you a little bit more time with the English, and then the math, you do have to complete it by the end of summer 2021. And these are all of the majors that do not accept tag: business administration, cognitive science, dance, music, language science, nursing science, all majors in computer sciences, and the psychology BS. Fall, keep in mind that fall 2022 will be the last admits for psychology BA. So now let's talk about UC Merced. UC Merced is one of the schools that does accept tag applications for the spring. So for fall, as with all the other ones, the application is due in September. For spring, if you are interested, you have to submit that application between May 1st and the 31st. The GPA requirement for UC Merced is between a 2.0 and a 3.0, and you have to have this by the end of summer 2021. And then when it comes to their requirements for English and math, you have to complete your first English by the end of fall 2021 and your second English by the end of spring 2022 if you are planning to transfer for fall. If you're planning to transfer for spring, then you have to complete your first English by the end of spring 2021. So now you have to make sure that you are taking your spring 2021 in the spring. And then your second English, you have to make sure that you sign up for it for the summer 2021 and you have it done by then. Now your math, if you are applying for fall, you have to complete your math by the end of, your English. So now for UC Riverside, they accept both fall and winter. So if you are interested in applying and getting that winter tag for UC Riverside, you have to apply submit the application between May 1st and May 31st. Their GPA requirement is 2.7 to 3.0, and you have to make sure that you do have to have it by the end of summer 2021. Now, for those of you that are interested in fall tag, when it comes to the English component piece, you have to complete your first English by the end of fall 2021 and your second English by the end of spring 2022. So fall would be the end of, right now we're in spring 2021, so it would be this coming fall. And then for the English, the second English, it would be next spring 2022. Now winter tag, if you're interested in that, you have to complete your first English by the end of spring 2021. So now, and then your second English by the end of fall 2021. Okay, so keep that in mind. Now for math, fall tag, that needs to be completed. So the math needs to be completed by the end of fall 2021, the same as your first English. And then math needs to be completed by the end of spring 2021 for winter tag. Okay, so fall tag, math is by the end of fall 2021, winter tag, math by the end of spring 2021. And the majors that do not accept tag are art studio at UC Riverside. Now UC Santa Barbara, they only accept tags for fall. Their GPA requirement is on par with UC Irvine, so you do need to have a 3.4 by the end of fall 2021 though, so keep that in mind. You have a little bit more time. And then with English, you complete the first English by the end of fall 2021 and your second English by the end of spring 2022. And then your math needs to be completed by the end of fall 2021, okay? When it comes to the majors that they don't accept with tag, it's dance, either BA or BFA, music BM, theater BFA, and all majors in the College of Creative Studies, and also all majors in the College of Engineering. UC Santa Cruz, they do only accept tags for fall. So although UC Santa Cruz does accept like a regular transfer application for winter, they're actually one of the 3 UCs that actually do open the regular UC application. So we have UC Merced, UC Riverside, and UC Santa Cruz that do accept winter. When it comes to tag, Santa Cruz only accepts for fall. So if you are interested in Santa Cruz and you want to do tag, you have to make sure you're applying for fall. Their GPA is a 3.0. And they are asking for this by the end of fall 2021. So they're giving you a little bit more time than some of the other schools. When it comes to the English requirement, they want this completed. They want the first English completed by the end of fall 2021, and then the second English completed by the end of spring 2022. And then for math, they want that completed by the end of fall 2021. And guess what? Santa Cruz actually accepts all majors for tag. So any major, you can apply for tag. So if your major is one of the majors that is not accepted or you can't apply for tag within the other schools, UC Santa Cruz will accept your major. So that's good news. Now we're going to talk about this tool. It's called the UC Transfer Admission Planner. We just talked about tag, so I'm sure you know where this is going. UC TAP is actually the online tool that helps you track all of your UC coursework, and if you are interested in applying for tag, please, as soon as you finish watching this or as soon as you have some time, make sure you create your UC Transfer Admission Planner, so your UC TAP Planner, because it's going to save you time. This is actually also the tag application. So around September, if you create an account now, it's going to just be there. But around September, there's going to be a little button that's going to pop up that's going to say UC Tag or UC Tag application. And that's where you're going to click on to make sure that you're applying for tag for whatever school you choose to apply for. Besides that, you can also use the UC TAP application or the planner to actually save some time when it comes to the UC admission application. So for those of you that are like, no, I actually want to apply for UC Berkeley or UCLA, so I wouldn't really need to use the transfer admission planner, it's going to save you time as well. Because even if you don't want to apply, you can still use it for your UC admissions application, because you can go in and put in all of your coursework, and all of that coursework will transfer from your UC Transfer Admissions Planner over to your UC Admissions application. And by doing so, if you have taken all of your courses at a California community college, it will actually calculate your UC GPA. So that saves you some time, because now you can see exactly what your GPA is and you don't have to do any extra calculations. So having this tool is really useful. Just one thing to keep in mind is you have to make sure that you're opening your UC TAP your UC tab and creating that account with the same email that you're using for your UC admission application, because that way the systems know that this is the same person, and if you are using this because you want to transfer that coursework over to your UC admissions application, they'll know that this is the same person and that that work can get transferred over. Because we have had students that are like, you told me this was going to transfer, but it didn't transfer. And that's because maybe for, let's say you have a Yahoo and a Gmail, and for their tag application, for their TAP, they use the Yahoo email, but then for their UC admissions application, they use a Gmail. So the system thinks it's two different people. So that's why you have to make sure you use the same email. Also, when you're completing this, the 7-course pattern will populate at the bottom of your planner. Again, this is only if you've taken the classes at a California community college, but that's also super helpful. And as I mentioned again, the TAP, UC TAP, is also going to be your application for tag. So why not open it up and save yourself some time? So what are you going to need? You may be asking, do I need a lot of information? Here it is. You're going to need your personal information, as you need for many other applications, or as you're completing applications, that'll come up. You'll also need to fill out demographics, although this is optional. You don't have to complete it if you don't want to, but that's another piece of the TAP tool or TAP account. They'll also ask you for your academics. So they'll ask you for the high schools that you attended, the colleges that you attended, and this is where you're going to put that in. And then they're going to ask you for your transfer plan. So what are the campuses that you have of interest? What are all the campuses that you're interested in applying to? Okay. And then, again, we mentioned all of the campuses. There's 9 that you can transfer to, so it'll ask you about that. It'll also ask you about some student participation programs, some activities that maybe you've already done, and they want to know a little bit about that. Any extracurriculars that you were a part of, any clubs, organizations, anything like that, any volunteer, all of that you participated while you were in, that you've already done. So if you were a part of any special programs like EOPNS, Puente, anything like that, that's where you're going to put it in. And they're also going to ask you, this is where you'll put in your AP exam info. So anything that you did, your AP test, all of that goes here. Also, if you completed any international baccalaureate courses, you'll enter there. And then when it comes to your coursework, there's that section as well. And it's actually going to be the longest piece, so keep that in mind. But after that, everything will be okay. So this is the longest piece because you actually have to input all of your college coursework semester by semester. So if you went to multiple colleges, like let's say you went to like Long Beach City College and you also went to like Rio Hondo, you have to make sure, Rio Hondo College, you have to make sure that you put in every single college that you went to, the term, and then the course, okay? So it's gonna be some time, but they need that information. Again, you have to make sure that you include everything. So everything that is on your transcript goes on the planner. As Ruben sometimes likes to say, he's the transfer coordinator, you're going to basically be a human copy machine that's just like moving from one to the other. Everything that is non-transferable you put in, any W's you received if you dropped a class, any classes that you maybe got D or F grades in, any repeats that you took again. If you have any coursework that you got academic renewal for, you're going to put that in and complete all of that. Your academic renewal, you're probably like, but why do I have to put it? Because it's academic, I got academic renewal, and why do I need to? Don't worry, if you do get academic renewal, you would just put AR. So they're not going to see the grade that you got, okay? But you have to make sure you include everything. And not only like what you have already done, but you also have to include the courses that you're currently taking and then the courses that you're planning to take. They want to see everything because some students are like, okay, but I'm going to take this in the spring and the application is due in the fall. How are they going to know that I'm completing what they want me to complete? You're going to be able to include those classes that you're going to be taking even in the spring right before you transfer. If you're transferring for fall, you're going to be able to include those so that they know that you're going to take those. And one thing to keep in mind too is that for any of you that have taken non-transferable courses, or have taken classes at colleges or universities that are outside of the California Community College, so any four-year, private, out of states, all of that, when you type in classes, they're not going to appear automatically. The classes that appear automatically are only the transferable courses that you took at a California Community College. So sometimes that worries students a little bit, but don't worry. It just means that you have to enter them manually. So whatever you see on your transcript, that's what you're going to be entering when you're filling out the tab and adding your coursework in. Now, when it comes to any educational gaps that you also have to make sure you report those and you add some sort of an explanation. So if maybe like you were working or you had any health issues, maybe you went to the military or any financial situations, you have to make sure that you're including that. Basically, they just want to know if you have those gaps that are not, these are gaps that are not winter or summer. So gaps that are maybe like in a spring or a fall semester. They want to know just because they want to make sure that you haven't taken any classes or attended any colleges that you're not reporting. And then you have to make sure that you use the same email on your TAP account that you will use for your UC application. So we talked about your UC TAP, everything they're going to ask you. So now what happens when you want to move from TAP to submitting your TAG application? Well, I mentioned that an apply for TAG button will appear during the month of September, which is when you'll see it and you'll click on it and you'll say, all right, I'm ready to apply for TAG. And as you can see in that picture, the schools that you can apply to will show up and all of your TAP information will transfer into your TAG application. Make sure that you are reviewing your TAG application. Just double check all of the information that you included. Make sure you complete all the submissions checklists. Just like double check to make sure that everything looks good. And just to let you know, LBCC Transfer Services will be reminding you to submit your TAG application via tag messages. So because you create your tab, and that's actually something really important that I forgot to mention earlier, the TAP account is another way for LBCC and UC schools to communicate with you. So that's another great tool and another great thing about the TAP. So because you'll have that account created, LBCC will remind you, hey, remember you have your TAG application, make sure you submit it before September 30th. Also, you'll get a confirmation email to let you know that. And then once you submit, you'll get that confirmation email. If, however, you submit it and then you're like, wait. Again, has to be if it's before September 30th. You submit it like September 15th and then you start thinking about it and you realize, you know what? I don't want to go to that school anymore. I don't want to submit the tag for that school anymore. I actually really want to submit it for this other school. You can totally withdraw and resubmit the tag to a different school as long as it's before September 30th. And then, reminder, tag application is going to close September 30th, so make sure you do not miss that deadline if you're interested in applying for tag for fall. And here are just a few reminders on the application. Submit your free tag application and your separate UC admission application, which does have a cost of $70 per school. It is one application that you use for all 9 campuses, so you can complete the application for all 9 campuses. You just have to pay $70 for each campus, okay? They're also going to have some personal insight questions, so basically essay questions that they'll be asking you. But these actually haven't really changed throughout the years, so even now, if you wanted to start working on it and get ahead, you could look into the questions and start drafting some stuff out so that by the time that the application does open, you have all that set and you don't have to stress out too much. And again, keep in mind that the due dates you can submit it between November 1st to the 30th. It does open in August. So starting August, you can start inputting things, or you can start trying to transfer things from your tab into your application, but you cannot submit it until November 1st. That's the first day that you can submit it. Anywhere between November 1st and November 30th for fall transfer, you can submit. So let's just do a quick review. Make sure you're creating your tab at any time, but probably do it now. And then submit your tag to one campus during September, between September 1st and September 30th. Do that. And then make sure you're applying for UC admissions during November. So even if you submit your tag for a school that lets you know early, you still have to do that UC admission application. And again, the UCF fall applications do open in August, so you can start working on it in August and then just submit it in November. And make sure that you are maintaining and completing all of the requirements through spring prior to fall transfer. We want to make sure that all your hard work really pays off. We want to make sure that whatever your goal is, whatever acceptance you get, anything rolls through up until you transfer, and we want to make sure it happens. So please make sure that you're maintaining and completing those requirements. So just some final tips. Make sure you're meeting with a counselor and a UC representative to make sure that you have everything that you need before you start submitting those applications. Look at any classes you may still need to take, all that good stuff. Make sure you're talking to someone about it now. Look at the personal insight questions and start drafting your responses. The last thing we want is for you to be stressed. So if you can save some of that stress by just working on some of these essays now, why not? Also, visit university campuses. Yes, it is a little bit difficult now, obviously, to go in person, but there are remote tours. So take advantage of those. If you haven't visited the school before, check it out through those remote tours and see if it seems like a place that you'd like to be at. Scholarships. This is super important. Make sure that you're applying to scholarships. Who does not want free money, especially for school? So make sure that you are applying to those. LBCC actually has one application for all scholarships, and there's a link included in this presentation that you'll be able to use. So the scholarship is lbcc.edu. Some students have already transferred, are still receiving their scholarships while they're at their new school. So come on, you can still use that money after you leave Long Beach City College. So why not apply, right? Usually the application is, the deadline is around December 6th. And then the transfer fair fall 2022 to be announced, but keep an eye out so you can talk to some of the schools that will be there. And here are just some of the website links that we provided to you. Make sure you use them. We have the academic renewal application, and actually we also have the UC transfers. Here you can look at the essays, and then here, this one is important. Oh, the scholarship application is here. And then the UC tag matrix. I mentioned earlier that some UC tag majors have maybe higher requirements. So you can use the UC tag matrix to see if your major has a specific GPA requirement. It may not, but it's always good to check, right? So that's the link that you'll use. For any of you that may have questions and want to reach the Transfer Center, you can reach us at transferacademy@lbcc.edu. Once we go back to being in person, you can find us in LACA 1097 and PCCEE 105. But for now, you can send us an email or also give us a call. Here's our number, and this is our hashtag we are LBCC transfer. When you give us a call or send an email, please make sure that you give us your name and your ID number so that we know who you are and we know exactly how to help you. Thank you so much for joining, and have a great day. Good luck with your transfer goals.